Weaponized emotional incompetence. This is undoubtedly one of the most dangerous relational behaviours people, often fearful avoidance, engage in. Our dismissive avoidance can also do it too. So what is weaponized emotional incompetence? If you were hearing statements like, I don't think I can give you what you need, even though up until that point, this person was meeting every one of your needs, or you've never had that conversation with them in the first place. Or one of the other big kickers is, I don't want to hurt you. What they are communicating when they say that is that they are fully aware of thoughts, beliefs, and behaviours that they bring into romantic relationships that essentially end up hurting the other person. What they are doing and what they are communicating is that they are aware enough that they have behaviours and beliefs that they enact that are not healthy, but they are not doing a thing to address that internally for themselves. They are outsourcing accountability, essentially pre-warning you. So if you hear statements like this, just be fully aware that you have likely triggered, not intentionally, triggered internal fears within them, and they have identified that you and your relationship dynamic are now on a trajectory where they are likely going to enact these harmful and hurtful behaviours. When you are dealing with someone who is weaponizing their emotional incompetence, what they're basically saying with the statements of, I don't want to hurt you, I don't think I can give you what you need, even though they may have been fully meeting your needs up until that point, what they are saying is, I know that my behaviour hurts people and I feel like I am about to do it again, but instead of changing it, I am warning you that you are likely going to be collateral damage for when I go into full shutdown trigger mode and then obliterate our relationship or dating situation. So they're aware enough that the train is going to come off the tracks in the near future, but they're either not emotionally equipped enough or willing to slow it down and prevent it from happening. So they are outsourcing the accountability for their poor relational behaviours onto you. So you are essentially carrying the emotional burden for two. So why do I call it weaponized emotional incompetence? If we think about what weaponized incompetence is, this is where someone they don't want to do a task, right? So they don't want to do a task, so they just make out that they are worse at it than what they really are to varying degrees, in order for someone else to pick up the slack so they don't have to do it. Weaponized emotional incompetence falls along a similar vein. That's why I call it that. So essentially they are aware of their relational behaviours that aren't healthy, but instead of them introspecting, doing the work, reflecting and figuring out what the fuck is happening with them that's actually driving these behaviours, they're making these pseudo insightful statements about their emotional status and essentially outsourcing the responsibility of handling their internal conflict onto you. Not fair, not healthy. So when someone is weaponizing their emotional incompetence, essentially it becomes your job to hold the emotional labour for two, softening your needs, softening your boundaries, avoiding asking for more so you don't rock the boat. So essentially it just puts all of the emotional heavy lifting on your shoulders, and they are just wanting to coast through and not self-reflect, introspect and be accountable for their behaviours. They're not taking care of their side of the street. So when you're dealing with someone like this, it's not that they can't show up, it's that they won't. Now, this isn't saying that they are purposefully doing all of this, because some people are at that level when they're doing this, when they are enacting this, they're at that level where they know that something is wrong, but they may not have the tools, the knowledge, the skill set to be able to figure out how to turn the ship around. But that doesn't make it okay, because when we go into romantic relationships or dating situations, it is our responsibility to show up as healthy and complete as we can. You don't have to be fully healed to be in a relationship, but if you are aware that you have sabotaging behaviours that you have brought into previous relationships, it is sure as shit your responsibility to work on that before you inflict harm on the next person. So what does it look like when you are actually working on your side of the street and de-weaponizing your emotional incompetence? Essentially, it's either on your own or when you're in a new relationship and you say things like, I've noticed this pattern in myself and I'm actively working on it. How can I make this situation or my behavior feel safe for both of us? I am aware that when I am triggered, I do XYZ behaviors. Now, I just want you to know when that happens, it is something that I'm aware of, that it is my problem. It is not you, but this is what happens if I am triggered, and how can we navigate that together? And other statements are like, I want to show up better and I'm in therapy to do that. So again, you don't have to be fully healed and fully complete to be in a romantic relationship, but you 100% can and should be aware enough, working on yourself enough to show up healthily for someone else. Now, one thing that is very dangerous for us with a history of trauma when we are dealing with people like this, and I'm not judging because I have been that person. Like 15 years ago, I was 100% weaponizing my emotional incompetence. But I became aware that it is not fair that I am hurting other people because of the shit that's going on with me. So I dragged myself off to therapy, and it was a long time of working with various therapists to overcome my heavily fearful avoidant attachment and now lean a lot more secure. It doesn't mean that the triggers don't exist. They still very much do. It's just I'm aware enough of them now that I can communicate about them. And I very much will tell people that I'm dating, like when we get to that point, if it is healthy, like you don't rush in and trauma dump on the first date. Some people do, you shouldn't. So basically what I do is I am still aware that if I am triggered, that I will withdraw and shut down a little bit. And so I'll communicate to my partner, like, okay, if you have something that you want to raise with me, the best way to approach this is by and I'll outline, if you have a problem, the way that we navigate it best based on my triggers is by doing it this way. Is that okay for you? Okay, if it is, great, we'll work with that. If it's not, okay, how can we actually make it so I feel safe, you feel safe, and we can pass this out together? So it's 100% a team sport, creating an emotionally safe and an emotionally healthy dynamic. So again, you don't have to be fully healed and 100% this secure unicorn, because I don't even know if truly secure people exist. Everyone is slightly fucked up. It just comes in varying flavors, right? So it's just being aware enough that you can communicate with someone that this is what happens when I am triggered, and this is what I find calms that down best for me, so we can actually navigate things healthily. Not everyone is at that stage, but I think that if you are weaponizing your emotional incompetence, you are aware enough that you have something going on that is not healthy. And if you are not aware enough and have the tools to address that so you can be healthy for your dating partners, it is your responsibility to fix that shit before you hurt someone else. Now, why it can be a very dangerous trap for people to fall into is because on the surface, it looks like emotional vulnerability, but essentially what it really is avoiding emotional responsibility. There is a very distinct difference between the two. So here's how you can spot weaponized emotional incompetence. If they have enacted some of their dangerous or harmful behaviors, it's, I told you that I couldn't give you what you need. So they're basically just shirking the responsibility and go, I warned you that I was going to do this and you stayed, so that's on you. Another thing is they will often talk about their fears, but they won't talk about their patterns. So I'm worried that I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, but they don't say why and how that might be impacting them. So I'm afraid of, or I'm not sure of where I'm going to be in a few months. So that is making me feel uncertain about this, and I'm sort of shifting between how in and out I am. And yes, people who are healthy can actually have those conversations. Another thing that they will do is they might highlight all of the positive aspects about you, but then they will still back away. So you are a great partner, you're amazing with this, you're amazing with that. They can rattle off all the wonderful things about you, but they still go, but yeah, you're amazing, and theoretically you are my perfect person, which that is often another love bombing warning sign that comes from our avoidance. So you might hear things like this, you're amazing, but I'm still going to tap out of this situation. And essentially where all of this ends up is they haven't done the work, but they are making you entirely accountable and responsible for understanding them and putting up with their behaviour. Now, why it's one of the most destabilising and disorientating dynamics to be in is because essentially what's happening is your compassion is getting weaponized. And you end up holding space for someone who is essentially eroding your complete sense of relational safety. If you do want to learn a little bit more about weaponized emotional incompetence or just relational safety in general, I do have some of my longer form podcasts available at the Reconnection Co, either on Spotify or on YouTube. And then if you do want to dive into a little bit of inner work, the guided journaling sessions are also available on a playlist on YouTube.